Please welcome our Master of Ceremonies, Duffy Jennings.
Oh, Paula, thank you so much. I want to be at the access table. They're having the most fun. And the only VIP that didn't get introduced and thanked so far tonight is Paula Dunn. Paula worked so hard to put this event together. Let's really give Paula a thank you. Oh my, a very pleasant good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. This is Media Predicts 2011. This is PRSA Silicon Valley's signature event, the one we've waited for all year. This is it. It's tonight. So stop playing Angry Birds. Put your cell phones away and pay attention. That means you, Savits. Okay? It's really great to be back here also at the Computer History Museum. How many saw that great interview this morning in the Wall Street Journal with the curator of the museum, Doug Spicer? I mean, talk about predictions. So he said what we already know, which is that desktops have been dead for 5 years. Now laptops are threatened. And he said, in the future, we'll be using mobile devices made from biological goo. That's a true story. It's this morning's journal. I don't know. I'm still using a rotary dial landline, but anyway, we're glad to be back at the Computer History Museum. Thanks very much. And yes, this is the night that we hear from the top journalists in the industry about what we can expect in technology news this coming year. I mean, these predictions are top secret, as you know, and so far we've been really lucky to avoid a premature e-publication by WikiLeaks. That was terrible. You know, I don't know about you, but doesn't WikiLeaks sound like a kind of a urinary tract infection of some kind? Embarrassing WikiLeaks? Yeah, call your doc. Talk to your doctor. Well, I know. On the way over tonight, my wife says to me, now don't try to be funny. You're not a comedian. But, you know, this is the news, and what's funnier than the news? Well, I'd love it if I could hear myself up here. Anyway, it's been an amazing year in technology news. We've had some fabulous stories, obviously. Facebook and Apple, Google, HP, Cisco, goes on and on, even Angry Birds, really. So where do you start ranking the top stories of the year? Now, I guess you could start with Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he had a whole movie made about himself. You don't get much bigger than that. The Social Network, did everybody see that? Yeah, they're working on the sequel now. It's going to be called You've Got Seamless Messages. And who would have predicted that George Bush would have 600,000 friends on Facebook? Anyway, there's the Apple story, the iPad sales boom, the new AirBook, and now the Beatles are on iTunes. 2 million songs sold in the first couple of weeks. Remember Steve Jobs said, when we make this announcement, it'll be a day you'll never forget. How many can remember what day that was that they made that announcement? And then there's HP. How about Mark Hurd stepping down at HP? I don't think anybody really knows what the settlement was with that consultant, Jody Fisher, but it might have been cheaper for Mark to run for governor. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be back here as your Master of Ceremonies. You know, I think it's even kind of more special for me tonight because, you know, I've looked around and it looks like I'm the only one back from last year. No, seriously, we've got some really distinguished journalists here tonight, but if you notice, there's not one back from the panel last year. And now it's puzzled me, but I finally figured out what it was. Not a single one of them last year predicted the biggest story in the Bay Area, right? the Giants would win the World Series. All right, so that's not entirely fair because these are tech media, not sports writers, and none of them predicted it anyway. But I think I know what it's like now to be a Cubs fan or a Red Sox fan. You know, you keep hoping that eventually your time will come, but you know, after the first half century or so, you kind of start to lose faith a little bit. But finally, after 52 years and 4 tries at it, the Giants got it right, and just a great story. You got to love the way the media goes crazy when the World Series comes to town. How many saw that? You know, there's somewhere there's a news director who hasn't been to a game all year and couldn't care less, and then he looks up and he sees this bandwagon going by, and he says, "Yeah, let's get on there." How many saw the guy from Dallas, the TV guy doing the stand-up at Candlestick Park? Yeah, his name was Newey Scruggs. True. And so he's standing up there in front of in McCovey Cove with the ballpark in the background, and he's talking back to his anchors in Dallas. And he says, "Yep, I know we're in San Francisco because right over there's some people smoking weed." Hysterical. Did you see this? It went viral. Seriously. I mean, I thought he was watching Tim Lincecum warming up, but anyway, I know what you're thinking. What does all this have to do with technology, media? But you know, the reality is the Giants are a really technology-focused team. First of all, some of their biggest investors are Microsoft, Cisco, and Yahoo. Well, so there's 3 of our 4 platinum sponsors right there. And if you throw in SAP, then I've got all 4 of them into the script tonight. So that's pretty good. The ballpark it has Wi-Fi everywhere. They've got special software programs written for evaluating players. There's another one they've created, first team in baseball, to do dynamic ticket pricing, which is really just a way to gouge fans for high-priced tickets. But that's supply and demand. And the press box is completely wired at AT&T Park. But I got to tell you, the media is very different there than it was in my days in baseball. I know Paula mentioned my journalism career, but some of you might know that in my first foray away from the Chronicle into what I hesitatingly call the dark side of corporate communications, I was the Giants PR guy for many years, mostly throughout the 1980s. And it was tough. We had no computers when I started there. Technology in the 80s, are you kidding? A hard drive was something that came off the bat of Jack Clark. And a floppy disk was what you found in Johnny LeMaster's spine. And online was where you waited to get into the bathroom at the Stick. But it was fun nonetheless. So what I would do is write up the players' statistics and the media game notes every night on a manual typewriter. And then in 1984, when the first Macintosh came out, I dragged one of those on the road with me with a dot matrix printer. And that was great. We had a World Series too in 1989. You probably remember that. There were 1,000 media from all over the world at Candlestick Park for that World Series. And then, you know the story, 15 minutes before what was going to be the first World Series game at Candlestick Park in 27 years, we had that little interruption called Loma Prieta. And it ended up shutting down the series for 10 days. It was amazing. When the quake rumbled, it came south from San Jose up towards San Francisco, and you could literally see the outfield grass in waves moving. Mike Krukow said it looked like a 600-pound gopher going from right field to third base, and it literally did. So anyway, suddenly we have no power. We have no audio. We have no lights at the ballpark, no cell service. Well, no cell phones, really. So here we were in this eerie state of suspended animation that nobody knows what's going on, and there's no lights, and the players are leaving the park in uniform, and officials are running around the field. Nobody knows what to do. And believe me, I was under a lot of pressure. You know how the media can be in these situations, and they're all screaming at me, "Duffy, where are the boxed lunches?" But it's true. Anyway, it all worked out. Fortunately, no one remembers that the Giants got swept, and in the end, I got a World Series ring out of the deal, so it was pretty good. All right, so before I let you go to dinner, I just want to mention that also not on stage with me tonight from last year is our good friend Jim Goldman. Now, Jim, as you may know, left CNBC in July to go to work for a major PR firm. And when they put out a press release about it, he was quoted as saying, "Now I get to move from the front row to backstage." What Jim didn't realize is it also meant the same thing for Media Predicts. So he's not here, but we wish him well. And you'll be meeting our new moderator, John Fort, shortly. And as you know, we're produced tonight by PRSA Silicon Valley, the top professional organization for Silicon Valley business communicators, and it's also has the distinction of being the only one dedicated specifically to the advancement of the technology industry profession and professionals. So I'd like to invite you all now to enjoy your dinner and the opportunity to connect with others at your table, and I'll be back in a few minutes to start our speaker recognition program. Thanks very much.